All right, well, we'll get started. I was talking to Todd just prior to the start of the meeting here. I'm actually in my truck traveling. I'm stopped, yes, of course. But if he could handle the chairmanship here of this meeting as we go forward, I'd appreciate that, and I'll participate as I can. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, well, welcome everyone. This is the Legislative Committee for Thursday, January 30th. And I guess we'll start with, see if we have roll. I don't think we do, but quorum, but go ahead, please.
Give me one moment. I'm popping open my roll call sheet. Take just a moment here. All right, committee chair Tom Handy, and if you're not able to talk, I can just mark you down there.
Yep, here.
Okay, gotcha. Council chair Todd Bayrether.
Here.
Thank you. Council vice chair Jay Arnold.
Here.
MVPE committee chair Damon Doyle.
Here.
Thank you. BFRW committee chair Roger Haringa.
Here.
Thank you. Council member Chell Anderson.
Present.
Council member Matthew Hepner. Not seeing them online today. And then council ex officio member Representative Alex Rammel. And I'm not seeing them online today either. With that, we do have a quorum, 6 seats represented.
Okay, thank you. We'll continue with introductions. Would anyone from the public like to be recognized? Patrick, please.
Yes, thank you. Patrick Hanks with the Building Industry Association of Washington here.
You. Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Torsky with Cascade Natural Gas. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, seeing no other hands, we'll move into agenda item 2 to review and approve the agenda. Can we hear a motion to approve, please, as shown on screen?
So moved.
Thank you. Okay, moved and seconded. Shell and Jay. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And any opposed? Okay, so approved. And then item 3 would be to a motion to review and approve the minutes for January 23rd. Assuming we can pull them up on the screen. Thank you, Dustin.
Getting them up here in just a second. 2 seconds. All right, we should be seeing the minutes on screen now.
Yep.
Can we hear a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Second.
Okay, but Jay and then Shell. Any proposed edits or concerns?
Quick comment.
Yes, please. Welcome, David.
It looks like the minutes show that, several items or several bills were discussed, but I don't see any action on the majority there, whether we sit in favor or opposed. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of thin on the minute side. Just say, yeah, we talked about this.
So on the minutes, as far as being in favor or opposed to them, we don't have the authority to speak on behalf of the council for that. So if as far as any bills that we are supporting, there's only one. There's the HB 154. It's the WUI code one. It's the numbers escaping my 1254. Sorry. That one we testified last session towards the end of the session, asking that the technical specifications be removed from that RCW section And because of that previous testimony, we have testified in support of the technical change on that one, not on the policy side. So we're supportive of that. But other than that, all other bills we've been neutral on, and I was hoping to maybe discuss some at our last council meeting, but we didn't complete the agenda, and so we haven't had a chance to formulate official stance on that yet.
Okay, so with this group then at least make a recommendation one way or the other?
I think we can do that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I think it's fine, but the only thing I would comment on is in the motion, really it was to allow me and Tom to inform, at hearings and meetings, but I think the intent is understood there. Just to make sure no one interprets that as to represent the SBCC without formal action by the committee, the council. So, okay, if there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. And then agenda item, I believe 4 is that it move into the legislative update.
Yes, sir. Give me one moment to get my documents open there, and I'll update my share real quick. All right. All right. This is our updated tracking sheet. You'll notice that the date at the top here is bad. It's my fault. I neglected to change that when I changed the week number, but not the date on there. But on what's posted here for you guys, the highlighted areas are where there's been change or movement on the sheet as reviewed last week by this body. So on HB 1015, we have a substitute bill. The priority has, or the position on there, I'm sorry, I have that wrong as well. The position is neutral with the priority low still there. And there hasn't been a lot of change there. This particular bill creates optional energy performance reports program for local jurisdictions. It doesn't impact the SBCC directly, and so we haven't had a desire to make testimony on this one. Just that there's a substitute bill out there that isn't quite complete being reviewed by staff just yet. It dropped pretty midway in the week this week. Similar for HB 1183. This one is the bill that was directing the SBCC to adopt elevator standards. And in Washington, elevator standards are handled by the Department of Labor and Industry's elevator program, and they adopt a ASME standard and maintain that. And so they made some contact and would like the standards portion of that to be located in RCW 70.87, which is the elevator program. There's with the revised bill that a change was made, and there's some more conversation happening on the ask for cities and counties to allow small passenger elevators outright. And so I'm gonna just pull up this particular section. Let me just close out some of these other things so I can stay on track here. So 183 and also Senate Bill 51. No, sorry, let me just 5156 are similarly have similar subjects. And so 1183 has a lot of sections for cities planning RCWs. And at the bottom here, this is the substitute one. I'm getting down here. Section 11 is where the change occurs. Hold on, no, I'm lying. Do I? Making sure here it is, 78.7. The department shall adopt rules. It is this one here. I'm sorry, I'm a little discombobulated. So this section right here is the only language change in this one, and it's placed in 70.87. The requirement for cities and counties to allow all passenger and freight elevators may not be appropriately placed in that RCW. And so L&I has just right before this meeting reached out to ask about the appropriateness of this particular provision being located in our RCW. And so this is something that I would like to ask for maybe council opinion on. We have some other locations in 19.27 where cities and counties are allowed to amend our building code with some limitations. And then there's another section in there for cities and counties to make provisions for emergency housing for indigent persons. So there is some precedent there for cities and counties to have some direction from us. If that section came back to 19.27, I don't see it as necessarily requiring a specific amendment within the building code, but we could entertain that as well. I haven't had a chance to fully formulate what that amendment might look like. And so before I move on, I just ask the group here to maybe discuss this one a little bit.
Angela, welcome.
Thank you. So Dustin, are you saying that, so I know that you and Al and I both testified at the hearings on the other bill, and the substitute bill completely puts it over into L&I's RCW. Are you saying, I mean, they did that here too, but are you saying that L&I is now saying that, okay, wait, maybe this is in the wrong place?
Not the entire thing. What they're saying is that they would like the standards responsibility placed in their RCW, but maybe the direction to cities and counties to allow small passenger elevators that don't necessarily fit a stretcher in there. That's the big component here that is impactful.
Yeah, that's what we discussed this yesterday at another legislative committee meeting. And basically, yeah, we came to that by putting that, by Ellen and I having this, it kind of makes it null, a moot point, because L&I doesn't actually enforce the size or the number of stories. They inspect the installation. And so, yeah, I was wondering if they were gonna figure that out and maybe try to put it somewhere else.
So you're saying, I've in the prior to previous testimony that I gave, I had been talking with the L&I elevator program, and they had indicated that they do enforce the car size, not know so much the story requirements, but they were providing information that they do enforce car size, and so what you're saying is that they don't in actual application?
I guess I would question how they do that, because that's a plan review item that jurisdictions do based on the IBC and chapter 30 and everything like that, that basically gives us our anything, over, it would basically, well, what this would actually do is it's not up to 4 stories. I believe you're allowed to have the small elevator, and they're trying to increase it to 6. So by having this here, it basically says L&I can allow them to go 6 stories with a small elevator, whereas in plan review, real life land in the jurisdictions, we're going to review this before it even gets to L&I, and the IBC still says 4. We're going to enforce that and make them put a bigger elevator in. So L&I isn't going to have any issue with them having a bigger elevator. It would be more of an issue if it was in our code and not theirs, and then they were trying to enforce it, see what I mean, after the fact. So
Right.
I'm just saying that the 6 stories and the 24 units being in here, basically it'll never be applied because it's in L&I. and we don't enforce L&I standards.
And
So they'll
so,
have to put the bigger elevator in anyway above 4 stories is all that I'm reading this as.
I hear you. So, at, you know, if this was, do you see this as to comply with the intent here to allow small elevators in single exit stair buildings? Do you see this needing an exception made to IBC 3002.4, which is that the elevator car must accommodate passenger, not passenger, but stretcher, must be able to accommodate the stretcher, and there's some the state amendment adds to the model code that it's R1, R2, and I occupancies regardless of stories, and then exempts residential or private residence conveyances from that requirement. Do you think that this would require an amendment to that section to make a little bit more of an exception there?
Well, the original bill, which was 1183, is that what this one? The
Yes.
original, actually, which is there one that's just this is more the land use, isn't it?
Well, the bulk of this bill 1183 is that, but it was this particular
Section.
provision was slotted in.
So
So Senate Bill 5156 just deals with this particular provision, but the language is the same, and it just so happens that we're reviewing the House bills before the Senate bills.
So I guess I'm not totally clear on what their intent was because the original language actually put this, it didn't put it in chapter 30. It didn't have it in the IBC's normal RCW requirements. It had it in emergency indigent housing. Something was the original RCW, and it was a jurisdiction had the option of using this, but it only applies for jurisdictions that have adopted a specific indigent housing emergency thing, which I mean, like Tacoma is the only one I can like kind of think of. So I don't necessarily know what their exact like want was. I don't think the original bill or this achieves it, but I don't know that I like it anyway. So either way, I'm just explaining what this kind of does. And maybe Chell may disagree with me or something, but yeah, he's been waiting.
Okay, Chell?
No, I don't disagree with you at all. I think one good way of interpreting what I believe, I think the intent is I don't understand the intent exactly. But if this applied to buildings under the IBC, we would need to amend chapter 30 to comply with the law. And I think that's what Angela said as well. If the intent is that as we modify the single stair and getting bigger buildings under the IRC, wasn't that up to 6 stories under the IRC? Wasn't that no, okay.
Sixplex.
It's a sixplex, okay, yeah. Yeah, so a building over, yeah. We need to modify chapter 30 to accommodate what I believe to be the intent of this rule to make it 7 stories or above. Is that what you were coming to the conclusion of, Angela?
Well, yeah, I mean, the way that they had it, it was being put in a really obscure portion, basically, of the IBC that almost nobody in the state really uses. But now, based on like Dustin, your testimony and L&I's, they took the advice and they moved it fully over into L&I, which is where the standard should be. Unfortunately, if they're still trying to accomplish something with the stories, that just has no business under L&I. That should have been kept as another section, which is then referring to the IBC RCW in order to do that. But again, on their original bill, we don't know that they were even pointing to the right RCW because of the obscurity of the portion that they were putting it in. And so originally it looked like maybe it was only for existing buildings, which we'd be totally on board if it's an existing building and it doesn't have an elevator and they wouldn't put one in otherwise. Okay, put a small elevator in there. It didn't have it before. But if now they're talking about new construction, that can kind of get into different things and fire and, but again, this is just the way they've got it written. I don't think that this adjustment has met what their intent is.
And that's the concern being raised by Ellen and I right before we spoke, is that they don't have anything in the elevator RCW that speaks to anything for the cities and counties. And so they're proposing a split of this language to have the standards portions be located in 70.87. And I think that if this is really intended to be for single exit, buildings up to 6 stories, 24 units, that it should be located in the RCW where we are directed to convene the tag to do that work, or separate it out as a whole separate new section. And that's very fresh, new thinking, because this is all developing today. Jay?
Given what I'm hearing, both from Chell and Angela and what you've just said, that we need changes in both. We've got the L&I piece, and then we've got piece that would direct us to consider changes in the IBC to allow these elevators. Given where the bill is, where it's already passed out of committee, it's going to the Appropriations Committee next, which is, really talking about the cost of L&I to do this work and the cost of us to do this work versus the policy. The next place that this would have the amendments we want would be a floor amendment. And given that set of work, I think we're past the point of providing some testimony that says, hey, you should make some changes. I think we actually should be recommending some language of what, given what we're hearing of what we think they want, here's how we would want you to direct us to do this. And so I'm wondering if we could put together language for a particular amendment, if that's something that's appropriate for this group to do, or is that something we need to go back to the full council to say, this bill's moving in this direction, and we think that in order to do it properly, we'd like to see this language. But I really do think that we need to take control here and give language we think works for the Building Code Council.
Okay, so on this one, it looks like the next scheduled meetings, January 20 is already passed, sorry. I don't have anything upcoming for that. So would it be the will of this group to bring it to the council to talk further on this one, or would I have some volunteers to maybe draft up a potential language proposal?
I think it probably should be both, in that saying we should draft up a language proposal and have that be what the full council looks at.
Okay. Angela?
So I guess I just have one more question for the committee. Is this an SBCC concern? Or is this an L&I concern? I mean, is this actually, I guess it's, I mean, yeah, we don't want code language, or we don't want them to, give us the, whatever in the code. But I guess just on a general, as far as things that SBCC is going to give language, is that SBC's place, or is that more of an LNI battle, a wobble battle, things like that that are trying to get that in? I guess that's where I'm just trying to figure out SBCC's interest in this.
Angela, I would suspect that if we understand their intent, if the intent really is, as I think they want to see this in the single exit typology, then I suspect what Jay is offering is to inform how you might do that to make it cleaner, so that legislative intent is very clear to us. I think right now if that is the intent, I think the single exit tag already has the ability when they meet to start to propose that language perhaps. But I think this would establish the mandate if that was their desire, but I don't think we need to take a position on it.
Because yeah, I mean, this says by March 31st of 2026, which the new single exit won't be in the code until November. So that's where I mean, this, just their intent. I mean, it might be something to reach out to the proponent to find out, but yeah, I just don't want to see us overstep our bounds to try to correct something into something that they weren't really doing, but that's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's an interesting tightrope to walk. I think, you know, we're in the position where we're not weighing in necessarily on whether we think a different standard for elevators in 6-story buildings is a good idea, but saying more that if the legislature is interested in saying you want this smaller type of elevator in 6-story buildings, and that requires both changes in L&I and in the building code, here's how to do that properly.
Agreed.
Okay. We got a few things to cover here today, so I'd like to try to move past 1183. As we move past it, though, could I ask for a volunteer to maybe craft some language to address what we're talking about? And I would suggest also that, you know, Wabo might be a good person to bring some stuff forward on the concerns that you're raising, Angela, as far as the practicality of what we're talking about and how it's interpreted to apply. You know, looking at what we got going on, I'd be happy to collaborate with somebody, but I'm hoping to get a volunteer to draft some language for this one.
I'm happy to help if we're interpreting everyone's intent correctly, that we're simply informing and trying to include this in the single exit. I also would add, what is the significance of March 31st?
That was one of my sticking points. If this was going to remain in the 19.27, is that it doesn't align with any of our code adoption schedules as, you know, listed in the RCW. And so if this was going to be back in 19.27, I would be recommending that it be by December 1, 2025, or December 21, 2028 would be the next deadline for the building code adoption by the council.
Well, I think if their intent really is in the single exit and we need to clarify that, then I agree with you, Dustin. It should just simply amend the 2023 bill. And then while they're doing that, if you remember, it might be helpful to also clean up the implementation date to November 1st, 2026 in that bill also, that RCW.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, Todd, I'll work with you to put together some draft language there and hopefully have it ready in time for the council meeting next week.
Okay.
And then we'll keep an eye out for opportunities to engage to make that suggestion. All
And then
right,
if someone really wanted to take a position or propose to the council to take a position, then that would be the appropriate time at the meeting to become prepared with
yes,
that motion. Okay.
all right, moving beyond that, in these ones here, HB 1543 was one that we I think had, or these are all brand new, and on these reviews for 1543, this one doesn't impact the SBCC. It has to do with clean buildings performance standards and administered by the Department of Commerce. So we are taking a position of neutral, but monitoring it for any changes that might come down. For HB 1562, this bill requires baby diaper changing station in both restrooms accessible to women and men. And so we don't see this as being a huge ask for SBCC. And we have a position of neutral and monitoring. And for HB 1582, this one concerns childcare centers operating in existing buildings. This one, I'm a little curious how WABO interprets this one, but this one requires building officials to calculate occupant loads based on space to be used for childcare centers rather than total space. Like, so for example, you have a mega church that has ample meeting rooms and gymnasiums and things like that. If they would like to bring a childcare center in there to increase availability, they don't want the entire building to be considered. They're just looking for that space. And so I paused for a little bit of talk on that one. It's a interesting one, but I don't think it requires us to do much in the building code. We would need to amend it to talk about how we're calculating occupant load there. But beyond that, it's not a whole lot. Any thoughts or comments on that one before I move past it? All right. Angela.
Sorry, but I was just reading this. I don't think I've seen this, but I'm not sure that this is different. I mean, this is what the code says. I mean, if somebody, it's like a TI space. You give us the space you're using, and we calculate required exits and blah, blah, blah based on that. This just seems weird.
It's
mean,
it's a little weird, and I honestly wasn't like, I agree with you, Angela. That is kind of how it's done, but I haven't had any contact with anybody who drafted this one, and I'm sure there's some sort of scenario that they were thinking of that would maybe increase requirements for a child care center in a certain occupancy, but not sure. Krista, you have some thoughts? And you're muted if you're
Yeah.
speaking.
A couple of years back, there was a company that was coming in and renting buildings, and they'd rent a 50,000 square foot building and say they were bringing in a child care, but we're only going to locate that child care center within a portion of that building, and they were unsure what they were going to do with the rest of the building. But the signage and everything went through over the entire space, so I'm assuming it's related to that kind of scenario.
Okay. So, anyway, we got this one marked as neutral with a medium priority, looking for changes that might impact this additionally. Moving on to HB 1654. This one, I am still pending analysis on this one, but this one concerns the administration of the International Fire Code. Let me pop it open for you guys here. This one popped up on the list later in the week, and open the bill. I'll get it over here for you guys. So, it allows for the local fire protection district to assume the administration and enforcement as long as they're of a certain size there. So depending on how the local jurisdictions are set up, it may impact local building officials. But we don't see this one as being a hot topic. And so anyway, with that one, I anticipate a neutral and priority low on that one as I finish the review on that. Yep. Oh, I passed up one of our bills, 1458, embodied carbon. This is one I hadn't completed a review on last week, and this one is asking a lot from the State Building Code Council. We haven't taken an official position on it, but it's a high priority. I would be looking for some folks to testify on how this impacts the SBCC. Firstly, it's requiring additional reporting and documentation of materials and how they impact embodied carbon emissions, and requires that by the implementation of the 2030 code that we achieve a 30% reduction in embodied carbon emissions as compared to a standard or an average building, which determination on how those calculations are done and how the industry standard is viewed is left up to the rulemaking authority of the SBCC. One part of this one, it requires us to convene a specialized tag whose membership is specifically spelled out within the legislation proposed here. And so we're looking at incrementally increasing to 30% reductions, but for the 2024 code cycle, we have to implement some reporting measures, and I'm waiting for this one to pop up on my other screen here. And so as we get ready to make testimony on this one, I would definitely be asking for someone from this group to assist in the delivery of the testimony for that one. And I can work with you guys to figure out how that works. But as we move through today, I'd be looking for some folks. And I think that Todd and Tom, you guys were more nominated towards the WUI code bill, not as all bills. And so that would be an item to discuss at this point, is who would be available to give some testimony on this.
Yeah, so if I may speak up, so it has changed a little bit since the original drafts. There are some requirements with the tag, as you've explained. Some of the core is still there, and I know that those of us that were in the building code tag, saw a similar code petition come through, so we might be a little closer to some of this. Our challenge is going to be, I think this is on February 5th, right? Is that next Wednesday? And our special meeting, if we were to propose the council to take action on a position, is February 6th. So it's at this point going to have to be an inform
on the implementation of it
for February 5th, at least. So inform at most, yeah.
And so the major sticking point on the information, it requires specialized tag and gives us a incremental increase there. But in section 7, this sentence here So necessary for implementation in the 2020-30 International Building Code, and to recommend those modifications by July 1, 2026. I think that date is not realistic and should be altered to align. It should maybe reference what we're supposed to do for the 2024 code, the 2027 code, and the 2030 code. Micah.
Thanks. Unfortunately, it didn't sound like there was enough time for the council to take action on this, but for those of you that participate in the building code tag that Todd mentioned, we discussed this proposal from New Buildings Institute multiple occasions, and the tag recommended a full appendix package that was heavily modified to enforceable code language. This legislative bill pulls from a previous legislation only related to public buildings or publicly funded buildings. And so now they're going to push this into all buildings of 50,000 square feet or more. We had struggles with enforceable code language based on items that they had stuck into the legislation, in my opinion. So I think that more of this legislation needs to be removed. Maybe that's part of the testimony that needs to occur, that the SBCC has already taken, not the full SBCC, the tag has taken action on a proposal for an appendix. Maybe the only direction that needs to be modified at that point would be that appendix applied to all buildings, not just publicly funded buildings. So there's some options there, but I don't see the need, in my opinion, of course, for an additional tag to go through those modifications that we already went through in multiple meetings over multiple time periods, to do it all over again in time for something else. Again, I don't think this bill is actually necessary, but we're not going to get down that road. It's going to go through. But I think some modifications could occur that reduce the workload on SBCC, considering a significant amount of that's already been done. I do think it's kind of a failure as well, based on the actions of New Building Institute and their report that was required to be provided, and they didn't obtain the input necessary. And I believe the SBCC knows that and took action stating such when they provided comments on that report. So I think we already got an appendix going forward. Sounds like the SBCC is probably going to approve that. And then maybe the only modification needed would be that would apply to all buildings, and all this other information in here that's actually technical code language that ties your hands. One of those points I'm going to make are based on the reference standards that, again, this legislation brings up. We had heavy debate on that in the tag, that you're tied to those. They might change, numbers might change, things like that. So there's a lot of things that can be removed from this bill that I think we can still move forward with it and support it based on actions we've already taken. Thanks.
Bill?
Yeah, thanks. I've reviewed this bill a bunch of times and had some input into it as well. And I think that the people who crafted this have thought through what is minimally required to be in the bill to give enough direction without requiring exact code language. And I think it meets that requirement. I'm interested in talking to you more, Micah, about what doesn't need to be in here, but it provides a static baseline, the 2023 material baselines in the Carbon Leadership Forum. It provides clear direction as far as the reductions from that. I agree, I guess, that a unique tag is not necessary. I think the IBC tag handled it well. So yeah, I think if it reduces the burden on the building code council, I think creating a new tag probably creates an extra burden, but reusing an existing tag seems like a perfectly reasonable thing to do. And that would reduce the burden on the building code council. Regarding the things about the year 2030 that was shown in there, I'm guessing that's a mistake. I think the goal of this bill is to have this in the 2024 cycle, 2027 cycle, and 2030 cycle, as said in section 8. And then I think July 1 should be November 1, 2026. Because that's when we've suggested the 2024 codes will be in force in Washington based on all the negotiations that happened over the last couple of years to get printed versions of the code out there. So I think it's pretty good. I'm interested in how to make it better. I've sent in some comments, more minor comments to the AI Washington that we'll probably send them into the representative doer's office. And I did that as an architect, not as a building code council member. But nonetheless, I reviewed it with regards to the American Institute of Architects Washington, which is in Seattle, of which I'm a member. And so I have more knowledge of this than maybe some other people, and I'm happy to make more comments to make it better. So I guess I'll conclude with that.
Todd?
Maybe what I would add is, and we've said this many times, if for those who have followed the IBC tag processes, I think I personally don't feel it's a bad thing that all this is happening at once, that we're having a multi-level conversation about where does embodied carbon, potentially belong in codes and policy and so forth. So I think it's healthy that we're having this conversation. I agree with Micah that sometimes there's some of these sections that get pretty prescriptive about, again, what code language shall be mandated in policy. So if there's any representation, and I always think it's good to show up on Wednesday, I guess it would be to simply sign in as other and say, hey, we're present, we're listening, and we would bring this to both the full council and the legislative committee the following day for discussion. So and if there are any technical points like we've been talking about here, that we can raise that without taking a position of just concerns or things we're following. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
I do think it's entirely appropriate, given what we've heard, to inform of the history of saying that this is something that was looked at the IBC, and that the IBC, the building code tag has got the expertise to look at this versus standing up a separate tag, and think that that's feedback that we should be giving as the SBCC, whether it's this committee or staff.
And Jay, furthermore, informing the committee that this is literally the next day going into consideration for filing for CR 102 to begin the public process, at the council level. And I think that's information that's valuable to know, and then maybe building off of Micah's point, that make sure we inform that the current petition that's being considered is to go into an appendix that would be voluntary adoption by the local jurisdiction. So if, as part of their consideration, is their intent for legislative mandate on any of that to be, and help us understand that. Because I think what I just said there is not probably fully understood by most of the stakeholders.
For the meeting, maybe I could ask Chell to maybe, if you're available, to attend with us there.
Yes, I'd be happy to. I have a very, very important client meeting that morning at some point, and it's not exactly known when that client meeting is. My understanding of the hearing is at 8 a.m. on Wednesday. So I can't 100% promise I'll be there. I think 90% odds I can be there, and then provide any comments that we think are the appropriate comments.
Okay. Well, I'd like to strategize with you on how this impacts the SBCC and what we'd like to bring there. And then we can the meeting can be online as well. And we can facilitate making sure that you have that seat assigned to you as well for an online meeting. And so with that one, we're running short on time here.
Hey, Dustin, I think though, if consistent with last week, if that's the intent of the committee, we should probably hear a motion and
Okay.
and confirm that that's the intent of the committee to.
I'd like to move that we select Chell, and if not available, Todd, to inform on 1458 at the hearing on Wednesday.
Thank you, Jay. Can we hear a second, please? If desired.
Can I second that, or is that, I guess,
That's
protocol
appropriate.
somehow?
No, that's appropriate. Yes.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay. So it's been moved a second to nominate Shell and myself to inform at the local government committee on Wednesday, February 5th. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, that was a gentle aye, but we'll take that. Okay. Anything else, Dustin? Thank you.
Well, I guess before we run out of time, I've got more bills to introduce that we're new to our list here. If I will offer up that some of them don't have the analysis done on them just yet, and for future meetings, I had planned these at 1 hour. That's been the tradition in the past. But with the discussions we've had outside of legislative session over the 2024 year, we asked for a little bit more ability to interact with the legislature. And I think that we've got maybe more bills coming down the pipe to us this year than in previous years. I haven't made us for sure count, but it kind of feels like it. And then should we hold these meetings for more than an hour in the future so that we can get through them and have this discussion that we're having? Because I think the discussion is valuable, but we're not getting through the agenda. Chell?
Go ahead, Chell. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll say, yeah, an hour a week is a lot. And if Dustin, you or you and Todd could prioritize what information you want on bills so that if we get only halfway, we've gotten most of the information, that'd be helpful. I can't dedicate more than an hour a week to this. I don't think.
And I can
Okay,
appreciate that.
And I'll participate, but I'll defer to Tom as the chair. I'm just filling in today, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll collaborate with Tom on that one, and then we'll make a plan and try to prioritize our information we're trying to get out there. To try to sum it up here in the last 5 minutes, House Bill 1654 is pending. Well, we already talked about that. Was the International Fire Code Administration. House Bill 1715. Let me get our stuff back up here. Is regarding the cost of compliance with the state energy performance standard. This bill doesn't impact the SBCC. It directs the JARRC to review and report the cost of building performance standards at the Department of Commerce, position neutral with monitoring. SB 5055 completed the review. This one allows agricultural buildings to be used for public purposes as long as they're only open 6 months out of the year. Have a position of neutral with a priority medium on that one. SB 5156 is related to HB 1183. Has the same topic we talked about for elevator standards and cities and counties being required to allow small passenger elevators. SB 5190 has a new substitute bill in there It requires the Department of Commerce to develop an extension without administrative penalty for K through 12 schools complying or reporting on their energy performance standard. So this one doesn't impact the SBCC. Scrolling through the last two, these are new. The SB 5514 increases these compliance pathways for clean building performance standards. This one doesn't impact the SBCC. It is talking about clean buildings performance standards administered by Department of Commerce with a position neutral and priority monitoring. And then I have the last one on here, SB 5552, concerning the creation of building codes for kit homes. I have not completed the analysis on that one just yet. But as we talked at a previous meeting, this kind of crosses the building code path with the foundations and things. These would be considered factory assembled structures. And that brings me to the end of our list, and probably one that is of importance for us to consider here is SB 5429, considering the membership in the State Building Code Council. It creates 6 additional seats for the council, and got a position of neutral with a priority high, because as changes come out on that one, it'll impact us directly. And so that's it. If there's any last closing comments, I'll yield to that, and plan with Tom if we need to plan longer meetings and allow for people's times, but we'll prioritize the information moving forward.
I think there's maybe 2 things I'll add is the 5429. If there is an opportunity, it's tight, that we could actually discuss that as a council if we're starting at 10 o'clock on the 6th. And go ahead, Jay, and before I make a suggestion. Yeah.
Oh, just on 5429, just informing on language of how current membership lines up with this membership and whether there needs to be language on a transition. I was unclear as I look at my seat and the other elected seats, whether current membership fits into those, or there would need to be some sunsetting, and that might be an area to inform on.
Oh, are there specific dates you're saying that once that will get implemented, how that overlaps with the current
Exactly.
terms? Gotcha.
If current members don't fit in, like I'm not sure how the residency requirements fit in. And Todd, you mentioned a meeting on the 6th, but I don't see anything on the calendar yet. So when will we find out that being official?
So we got to send out the notice. This plan is for that to come out tomorrow for the special council meeting.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we're at 3, but thank you, Damon. I'm sorry, Dustin. One thing you have a lot of asks of you right now, but if it was easy, and that's an if the DS has still has their tracker, like if there's a way to just simply ones that are important and coming up on committee meetings, or maybe we can crowdsource that and that'd be an ask to everyone to kind of send in with your individual organization trackers, would make sure things are flagged if we want to talk about them in this meeting. Gotcha.
So just to clarify, maybe reduce the content on the spreadsheet we're looking at here today?
No, I think it's really helpful, and that people can go do their own independent research. Maybe I was informing that if it's easy to put a column in, and then when important, put the next action, if there's a committee meeting coming up and what time, that's just helpful to make sure everyone's paying attention. But making this public is very, very valuable.
Yes, it's definitely doable, and I'll strategize and get you something with some meeting information on there for the next one.
Okay, thanks so much. Okay, quickly, any other business? We're over time. Okay, go ahead. I hear your that was a wave.
I must be downgraded to participant because I have no ability to raise my hand here. I can send you heart emojis though.
I think it
so is that a goodbye, or you want
above that?
Just a quick comment. SB 5429. Our next meeting is at 2 p.m. on the 6th. I believe, and the hearing's at 1:30, so. You
Okay.
mentioned,
Maybe I'm mistaken, Damon. I thought perhaps the meeting was going to be scheduled earlier at 10, but I might be wrong.
oh, I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I'll clarify. I'll send out a memo and let everybody know what the upcoming things are gonna look like.
Okay, but thank you for that point, Damon. Okay, thank you all. With that, we're adjourned.
All right, thanks, everybody.